This is John Lewis Brooks. We're at chapter 9, verse 10 of the book of Job, but I'm going to start at verse 9. I simply ran out of space on my voice recorder, which makes Arcturus, Orion, and Pleiades and the chambers of the south. Notes. Okay, now like I said, this verse shows us that the roundness of the earth was known at that time, which was 3,700 some odd years ago, and well, I kind of jumbled over my words a little bit, and thus I feel it necessary to re-explain myself. Now, but think of it, if you look at a star chart, and you can point to Arcturus, Orion, and the Pleiades, you're pointing towards you're pointing in several different directions, which means that you're kind of in the center of things, okay? So verse 10, which does great things past finding out, ye and wonders without number. Lo, he goes by me, and I see him not. He passes on also, but I perceive him not. Notes. Now, Job is saying these things in the heat of a very tremendous trial. Okay, some things he says are right, and some are wrong. In fact, Job does not. Job does perceive the Lord, but he is now questioning his own experience. In other words, he is saying, considering what has happened to me, I'm not sure if my perception is right or not. Verse 12, behold, he takes away, who can hinder him, and who will say unto him, what doest thou? Notes. Job is saying incorrectly that the Lord has taken away all that he has had, and in a sense that is kind of true, and there was nothing that Job could do to stop or change the situation, and furthermore, he doesn't even know why. Verse 13, if God will not withdraw his anger, the proud helpers do stoop under him. Notes. Now, considering Job's circumstances, he seems to be thinking that God must be angry with him. So all of this tells us that it's very difficult for us to discern the Lord or his ways, unless he reveals his purpose to us, and he did to Job a little bit later, but almost all the time our assumptions are completely wrong. Verse 14, now keep in mind, though, he did not charge God with foolishness. He's questioning himself. What have I done to anger God? But in fact, God was not very angry with him. He was very pleased with Job, and you can find that in chapter 1. I think it's verse 2 or 3, right there at the very beginning of the book. Okay, where are we? Verse 14. How much less shall I answer him and choose out my words to reason with him? Notes. He's basically saying he does not know how to pray to God, which of course is simply talking to the Almighty. In fact, he didn't even really know what to say. Well, living under the Old Covenant, Job did not have the privilege of the infilling of the Holy Spirit as we do under the New Covenant. And truly, our New Covenant is based on better promises. Chapter 8, verse 6 of Hebrews. Verse 15, whom though I were righteous, yet would I not answer, but I would make supplication to my judge. Notes. He's basically saying that God is indeed his judge, and prayer is the only rightful attitude of even the best man before his Maker. Prayer for mercy, pardon, grace, prayer for abundance of holiness and whatnot. Verse 16, if I had called and he had answered me, yet would I not believe that he had hearkened unto my voice. Notes. Now, Job reasons here, and wrongly so, I might add, that due to his condition, God would not hearken unto him. He's completely wrong right there. Verse 17, for he breaks me with a tempest, and multiplies my wounds without cause. Note, there was a cause, but not in the realm which Job could comprehend, or anyone else at that time for that matter. The cause was not Job or anything he had done, but rather the spirit world and the things that were going on there. He seems to now believe that God is punishing him maybe without any reason. Of course that is wrong, and there we do. He's finally charged God with some wrong, and he wants to plead his case and ask him, why in the world is this going on? Verse 18, he will not suffer me to take my breath, but fills me with bitterness. If I speak of strength, lo, he is strong, and if I of judgment, who shall set me a time to plead? If I justify myself, my own mouth will condemn me. If I say I am perfect, it shall also prove me perverse. Notes, that word perfect in this particular sense does not mean being absolutely perfect. But anyways, about ourselves, there is nothing we can actually say. In fact, it's what God says that always counts. He had already made a gracious statement about Job, but unknown to this particular man, back there in chapter 2, verse 3. That word perfect means to be mature, actually. You can check that out in your Strong's Concordance. Verse 21, though I were perfect, yet would I not know my soul. I would despise my life. This is one thing, therefore I said it, he destroys the perfect and the wicked. Notes. Now, Job is a little bit closer to the truth now than he realizes in verse 21. But verse 22, while Job is not concluding himself to be perfect, in fact, he is saying it wouldn't even matter even if I were, it would do me no good. Well, in that he's not right at all. Verse 23, if the scourge slay suddenly, he will laugh at the trial of the innocent. Notes. In other words, God laughs at those who actually claim that they are innocent. Verse 24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covers the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Notes. Now, inasmuch as God has to allow things to be done before they can be done, and irrespective as to what they are, still there is always a reason as to why God does all of these things, and that reason is valid. The judge of all the earth will do rightly no matter what man does. Genesis chapter 18, verse 25. There you go. Verse 25, and here he's going to have his complaint. Now my days are swifter than a post. They flee away, and they see no good. Notes. Now, a post, it's not talking about a wooden beam that holds something up or a clothesline or anything. It talks about a messenger who quickly comes and quickly goes. And he goes on to say, they flee away, and they see no good. But yet, despite how things now look, there is a better day coming. Verse 26, they are passed away as the swift ships, as the eagle that hastens to the prey. If I say I will forget my complaint, I will leave off my heaviness and comfort myself. I am afraid of all my sorrows. I know that you will not hold me innocent. Notes. He's reasoning that if all of this is happening to me, then it stands to reason that I am not innocent. Now, specifically, he was right, but particularly, he was wrong, okay? He kind of hit and miss right there. Verse 29, if I be wicked, why then labor I in vain? Notes, this is a really good question right here. If I am wicked, why in the world do I try to even live right? Verse 30, if I wash myself with snow water, and make my hands never so clean, yet shall you plunge me in the ditch, and my own clothes shall abhor me. Notes. It doesn't matter what I have done to try to live right. The only conclusion to which I can arrive is that the Lord abhors me. Once again, the great patriarch was looking at circumstances. He knew what was happening, but he didn't know what was really going on. And now he kind of sort of has blamed God for some of the things that's going on, and he's almost right about that. The truth is that God allowed the protective barriers around him, the hedge, to be torn down, but only really to actually bless this man. Verse 32, "For he is not a man as I am, that I should answer him, and we should come together in judgment." Notes. Well, what a plea for the coming Redeemer. Now, true, God is not a man, but God would become man, and then God and man would come together in judgment. And, of course, we're talking about Christ. Verse 33, "Neither is there any daysman betwixt us that might lay his hand upon us both." Notes. Now, of course, Job did not understand the coming work of Christ as mediator between God and man. You can find that in 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 4 through 5. But he knew in his heart that the need for such was very great, and thus he had more spiritual intelligence than probably most of the world at that time. Well, thank God Jesus Christ has come to us as the mediator, or in this particular case, the daysman, as it says in verse 33. Continuing, "Let him take his rod away from me, and let not his fear terrify me." Notes. Now, little did Job realize that this prayer, no doubt halfway uttered, would be answered so fully and wonderfully in the book of Matthew by Christ himself. Verse 35, "Then would I speak and not fear him, but it is not so with me." Notes. Well, with the coming of Jesus Christ, it certainly would be so. Anyways, chapter 10. "My soul is weary of my life. I will leave my complaint upon myself. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul." Notes. Now, it is kind of easy to condemn Job for his statements and actions. However, if any one of us had been placed in his position, I don't think any of us would have done better. As a matter of fact, most of us would have done a whole lot worse. Okay? I guarantee I wouldn't want nothing like this to happen to me, even if the reward was great. Verse 2, "I will say unto God, do not condemn me. Show me wherefore you contend with me." Notes. Now, very shortly, the Lord will answer that prayer, and in a far greater way than Job can actually now imagine. He's wondering, why in the world would God ever allow something so horrible to happen to a person? Verse 3, "Is it good unto you that you should oppress, that you should despise the work of your hands, and shine upon the counsel of the wicked?" Notes. The Lord was not despising Job's work. In effect, he was actually refining it. He is actually bringing this man to an end to himself. And it's going to be very important. Verse 4, "Have you eyes of flesh, and do you see as man sees?" Notes. Now, of course, the Lord does not see as man sees, but infinitely greater, which means that he knows infinitely more than we will ever know. Who in the world can understand the power and the knowledge of God? I mean, some people might rib me for saying this, but the Bible itself is just a mere speck of information from God. It's only one little piece of the puzzle right here in your hands. It's just enough to get you to where you need to go. Verse 5, "Are your days as the days of man? Are your years as man's days, that you inquire after my iniquity and search after my sin?" Notes. He's asking, why are you searching out things for which to punish me for? In that he was definitely wrong. Verse 7, "You know that I am not wicked, and there is none who can deliver out of your hand." Notes. Now, Job makes his case right here, and in this he was actually right. We will pick up in chapter 10, verse 8 of the book of Job. Thank you, and God bless.